Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Overthinker's Guide to Love. It's Elena, and I'm so happy you are here with me today in this new episode. And I want to start off by asking you something. How many chances have you given someone because you were convinced that eventually they would become the person you knew they would be? Not the person they were showing you, the person you imagined, the person they were in the beginning, the person they promised they would become, the person you kept defending even when their actions gave you nothing to defend. I think one of the hardest things to admit is that sometimes we are not holding on to the relationship. We are holding on to the potential of the relationship. We are holding on to the future we pictured, the version of them that showed up just enough to make us believe that maybe if we were patient enough, loving enough, understanding enough, they would finally become consistent. And I know that sounds harsh because when you care about someone, you want to believe the best in them. You want to give them grace. You want to understand where they are coming from. You tell yourself they have been hurt before. They are scared. They are overwhelmed. They do not know how to love properly. They need time. And maybe all of that is true. But at some point, you have to ask yourself a different question. How long are you willing to keep hurting yourself while waiting for someone else to grow? Because understanding someone does not mean you have to keep accepting the same behavior. Having compassion for their past does not mean you have to sacrifice your future. And loving someone does not mean they get the unlimited chances to disappoint you. I think a lot of us were taught that love means staying, that if you really care, you do not give up. That leaving means you did not try hard enough. But sometimes leaving is not giving up on them. Sometimes leaving is finally refusing to give up on yourself. There is a difference between someone making a mistake and someone repeating a pattern. A mistake comes with accountability. A pattern comes with excuses. A mistake leads to change. A pattern leads to another apology, another promise, and another version of the same pain. And I need you to hear this clearly. An apology without change is not repair. It is just a pause before the behavior happens again. Maybe that is why we feel so tired, because you have had the same conversations in different ways. You have explained what hurts you. You have cried. You have tried to be calm. You have tried to be direct. You have tried giving them space. You have tried loving them harder. You've tried lowering your expectations. And every time you tell yourself this has to be the moment they finally understand. But what if they do understand? What if they know exactly how much it hurts you and they simply believe you will stay anyway? That is a painful thought. But sometimes people do not change because they have learned that they do not have to. They know you will forgive them. They know you will answer. They know you will listen to the apology. They know that after enough time passes, they will still have access to you. And that is where we have to talk about the difference between being chosen and being kept around. Because those two things can feel very similar when you are hoping for more. Someone can miss you without choosing you. Someone can want access to you without being committed. Someone can be afraid to lose you and still refuse to treat you properly. Someone can come back again and again, not because they are ready to build a future with you, but because they want to know you are still available to them. That is not the same as being chosen. Being chosen feels intentional. It feels consistent. It does not leave you guessing every week. You are not consistently trying to decode their behavior. You are not surviving on good moments and apologies. You are not begging for clarity from someone who benefits from keeping things unclear with you. When someone chooses you, you feel it in their actions, not only in what they say when they think they are losing you. And maybe this is the part that hurts the most. Sometimes the person you are waiting on is not confused. They may know exactly what they want. You are the one confused because their words keep giving you hope while their actions keep giving you the truth. And when someone's words and actions do not match, believe the pattern, not the promise, not the potential, the pattern. Because potential is not a relationship, consistency is. A future is not built on what someone could become. It is built on who they are choosing to be right now. And I know that can feel unfair. You may be thinking, but I've seen the good in them. I know they have it in them. And maybe you are right. Maybe they do have the ability to become everything you hoped they would be. But having the ability to change is not the same as choosing to change. And you cannot build a life with someone's ability. You can only build with their decisions. So maybe the question is not, could they become better? Maybe the question is, are they actually becoming better? Not for 3 days, not after an argument, not when you threaten to leave, consistently, without you having to beg for it. Because you should not have to repeatedly lose your peace just to give someone another opportunity to prove they care. And this is not about being cold. It is not about never forgiving anyone. It is about learning that forgiveness does not require continued access. You can forgive someone and still decide they are no longer allowed to keep hurting you. You can love someone and still leave. You can understand why they are the way they are and still decide it is not healthy for you. Both things can be true. You can see the good in someone and accept that the relationship is not good for you. That is not bitterness. That is clarity. And sometimes clarity hurts before it heals you. Because the hardest part is not always letting go of the person. It is letting go of who you thought they would become. It is grieving the future you imagined, the version of the relationship that it existed in your mind, the trips you pictured, the life you thought you would build, the apology you were still waiting to hear, the moment you believed would finally make everything make sense. You are not losing them. You are losing the hope that one day they would become what you needed. And that grief is real. But staying with someone because of who they might become means abandoning who you are right now. And you deserve more than a relationship that only works in your imagination. You deserve a love that exists in reality, a love you do not have to chase, a love you don't have to convince, a love that does not require you to keep accepting less while waiting for more. So today, I want you to ask yourself honestly, am I staying because I feel loved? Or am I staying because I'm afraid to let go of the potential? Am I being chosen, or am I simply being kept close enough that I do not leave? And if you already know the answer, and maybe the next chance should not go to them. Maybe the next chance should go to you. I want to ask you another question. Have you ever noticed how relationships that consume us the most are usually the ones that give us the least? Think about it. The healthiest relationships rarely have you questioning where you stand. You're not rereading texts. You're not wondering why they haven't called. You're not trying to figure out what they meant. You're just at peace. But when someone is inconsistent, when their they're affectionate one week and distant the next, when they disappear and then come back like nothing happened, that's usually a person we can't stop thinking about. Why? Because uncertainty is addictive. There's actually psychology behind this. Our brains are wired to chase rewards that are unpredictable. Psychologists call it intimate reinforcement. It's the same reason people keep pulling the lever on slot machines. You don't win every time. You win just enough to keep believing that the next pull might be the one. And relationships can work the exact same way. One week they're everything you've been asking for. They're texting you, calling you, planning dates, talking about the future. You're thinking, finally, this is what I've been waiting for. Then suddenly they pull away. They become distant. They stop putting in effort. And instead of asking yourself why they're treating you differently, you start wondering what you did wrong. You start chasing the version of them that made you feel loved. But here's the truth. You shouldn't have to chase consistency. Consistency should be the standard. Another thing I think keeps us stuck is something called the sunk cost fallacy. It's the idea that because we've already invested so much time, energy, love, and emotion into something, we feel like walking away means all of that was wasted. Maybe you've been together for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe you've built memories, met each other's family, talked about marriage. Maybe you've imagined a future so vividly that it feels real. So you stay, not because the relationship is healthy, but because you're afraid of starting over. You're afraid that if you leave now, all those years you will have been for nothing. But can I challenge that thought for a second? What if staying another year doesn't make those years worth it? What if it just adds another year of unhappiness? Time isn't what makes a relationship valuable. Growth is, respect is, peace is. I've heard people say, I don't want to throw away everything we've built. But if what you've built keeps breaking your heart, maybe it's not something you were meant to keep building. I also think we confuse history with compatibility. Just because we've known someone for a long time doesn't mean they're the right person for you. History tells you where you've been. Compatibility tells you where you're going. Those are two completely different things. And then there's hope. Hope is beautiful. Hope gets us through hard seasons. Hope keeps relationships alive when two people are truly working together. But hope can also become dangerous. When it's the only thing holding the relationship together, ask yourself honestly. If you removed who they could become, would you still want the relationship you have today? Not 6 months from now, not after they change, not after one more conversation, today. If the answer is no, then maybe you've already found your answer. I know that's painful because letting go doesn't just mean letting go of a person. It means letting go of the future you pictured, the wedding you imagined, the home you dreamed about, the kids' names you picked out, the holidays you thought you'd spend together. You're grieving a future that never actually happened. And that's real grief. People don't talk about that enough. You're not crazy for mourning it. You're not weak for struggling to let go. You're grieving the loss of a dream. But here's something I want you to remember. There's a quote I heard once that has stayed with me. Don't let your imagination keep you in a place your reality is begging you to leave. I don't know who originally said it, but I think about it often. Because sometimes our imagination writes a love story, while our reality tells a completely different one. And if you've been waiting for permission to stop carrying the relationship by yourself, this might be it. Love isn't supposed to feel like convincing. It isn't supposed to feel like proving your worth. It isn't supposed to feel like consistently wondering whether you're asking for too much. You're not asking for too much. You're asking the wrong person, because the right person won't make consistency feel like a reward. They'll make it feel normal. So before we move on, I want you to sit with one question. Are you holding on to the relationship, or are you holding on to the hope that one day it will finally become the relationship you've always wanted? Because those are two different things. I think one of the biggest questions we should be asking isn't, do they love me? It's, are they choosing me? Because those aren't always the same thing. I know that sounds strange. We grow up believing that if someone loves us, everything else will fall into place. But love without consistency, love without effort, love without accountability can still leave you feeling lonely, very lonely. Someone can love you and still not choose you. Someone can miss you and still not choose you. Someone can be terrified of losing you and still not choose you. Because choosing someone isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's waking up every day and deciding, I'm going to protect this relationship. It's deciding to communicate instead of disappear. It's deciding to grow instead of repeating the same cycle. It's deciding that your relationships matter more than your pride. I think sometimes we confuse being wanted with being chosen. Being wanted feels exciting. Being chosen feels safe. Being wanted usually shows up when they're lonely, when life isn't going the way they hoped, when another relationship didn't work out, when they need comfort. Being chosen isn't seasonal, it's consistent. Someone who's choosing you doesn't make you question whether you're important. They show you. And I know someone listening right now is thinking, but they tell me they love me. I believe they probably do. But I also believe that words without actions slowly lose their meaning. Think about it. If someone tells you they're going to call, and they never do, eventually you stop believing them. If someone says they'll change, and in 6 months later, you're having the exact same conversation, eventually you stop believing them. Not because you're negative, but because your brain learns to trust patterns over promises. And that's actually healthy. And something I want you to remember is potential is a promise. Reality is a pattern. Listen to the pattern, because the pattern is who they are choosing to be today, not who they might become one day. I also think we need to stop romanticizing inconsistency. We've somehow made it seem passionate to chase someone, to wait, to wonder, to decode every text, to celebrate the bare minimum because it's more than what we got last week. That's not passion. That's emotional exhaustion. Healthy love isn't confusing. It doesn't mean you'll never disagree. It doesn't mean everything is perfect, but it also doesn't leave you wondering every night if you're enough. The right relationships shouldn't feel like a test you keep failing. It should feel like a home. Peace isn't boring. Peace is secure. If calm feels unfamiliar to you, sometimes that becomes chaos. That's sometimes because chaos has become familiar. Sometimes we mistake butterflies for connection, but not all butterflies are excitement. Sometimes they're anxiety. Sometimes they're your nervous system saying, I don't know what's going to happen next. And we call that chemistry, when really it's uncertainty. There's another thing I want to talk about. I think we give people too much credit for their intentions and not enough responsibility for their impact. Maybe they don't mean to hurt you. Maybe they don't wake up every morning trying to break your heart, but intention doesn't erase impact. If someone keeps stepping on your foot, it doesn't hurt less just because they say they didn't mean to. The pain is still real. And relationships are no different. At some point, good intentions have to turn into different behavior. Otherwise, nothing changes. Can I tell you something that I wish more people believed? You don't have to wait until someone is a terrible person to leave. I'm going to say it again. You don't have to wait until someone is a terrible person to leave. You don't have to prove they cheated or lied or manipulated you. Sometimes the reason you leave is simply because you're tired. You're tired of asking, tired of hoping, tired of carrying the emotional weight of your relationship by yourself. And that reason is enough. You don't need a dramatic ending to justify walking away. Sometimes the relationship simply stop bringing you peace, and that's enough. I also think it's important. Someone can be a good person and still not be the right person for you. I think we stay because we convince ourselves it has to be black and white. If they're not toxic, then I should stay. If they're not abusive, then maybe I'm asking for too much. No. There's so much space between unhealthy and healthy. You are allowed to leave because your needs aren't being met. You're allowed to leave because you've outgrown the relationship. You're allowed to leave because you've realized that you've been in love with someone's potential for longer than you've been happy with the reality. That doesn't make you selfish. It makes you honest. And honestly, it's one of the greatest acts of love you can give yourself. So if you're waiting for a sign, maybe this is it. Stop asking yourself whether they're capable of becoming the partner you deserve. Start asking yourself whether they're choosing to be that partner today. Because you can't build a future with someone's potential. You build it with their consistency. I want to leave you with one final thought. I don't think people wake up one day and suddenly decide they're done. I think they slowly become exhausted. Exhausted from carrying conversations. Exhausted from explaining why something hurt. Exhausted from accepting apologies that never turned into change. Exhausted from hoping this version of the relationship will finally be the one that lasts. And then one day, they're just done. Not because they stopped loving the person, but because they realized love wasn't enough to keep carrying the relationship alone. I know some of you listening are probably hoping this person changes, and I genuinely hope they do. I hope they become everything they've always said they wanted to be. I hope they learn how to communicate. I hope they become emotionally available. I hope they heal the parts of themselves that they keep hurting the people they love. I truly do. But I also hope something else. I hope you stop putting your life on pause while you wait for that day to come. Because here's the truth. You can spend years waiting for someone's potential and completely miss the people who are already capable of loving you the way you've been begging to be loved. And that breaks my heart. Because I know what it's like to believe that if you just love someone a little harder, they'll finally choose you. If you're a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little less emotional, a little easier to love, maybe then everything will change. But love was never meant to be earned by becoming smaller. You should never have to become less of yourself just to fit into someone else's version of what's convenient. The right person won't need you to consistently prove why you're worth choosing. They already know. I also want to say something that might be hard to hear. Sometimes closure doesn't come from one last conversation. Sometimes closure comes from accepting that you've already heard everything you need to hear through their actions. We spend so much time waiting for someone to explain why they hurt us, why they left, why they pulled away, why they couldn't love us the way we needed. But sometimes their actions have already answered every question your heart keeps asking. And I know that's painful because we love certainty. We like neat endings. We like apologies that tie everything together. Real life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes healing begins the moment you stop waiting for an explanation that may never come. There's another thought I want to leave you with. Imagine someone handed you the relationship you are in today. No history, no memories, no inside jokes, no vacations, no years together, no promises about the future. Just the relationship exactly as it is today. Would you choose it? Or are you only holding on to it because of everything you've already invested? That's a hard question, but it's an honest one. Because your future deserves more consideration than your past. One more thing. I know some of you are going to hear this episode and immediately think of someone else. Your best friend, your sister, your coworker. You're going to think, they really need to hear this. But before you send it to them, ask yourself if maybe there's a part of this message that's meant for you too. Because sometimes we're really good at recognizing someone else's heartbreak while making excuses for our own. And finally, I want you to remember this. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person. There's someone out there who won't make consistency feel like a reward, who won't make communication feel like pulling teeth, who won't make commitment feel like a guessing game, who won't leave you wondering where you stand every single week. Because healthy love doesn't leave you confused. It doesn't leave you questioning your worth. It doesn't leave you wondering if you're enough. Healthy love feels safe, steady, intentional. And if your relationship you're in has convinced you that peace is boring, I promise you, peace is one of the most beautiful feelings you've ever experienced. So, if you take one thing away from today's episode, let it be this. Stop falling in love with someone could become. And start paying attention to who they're choosing to be today. Because potential doesn't build relationships, consistency does. And maybe, just maybe, the next chance you give shouldn't be to them. Maybe it's time to give that chance to yourself. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'll love if you shared it with someone who might need to hear it as well. And if you're listening and you're in the middle of letting go, I just want you to know this. Choosing yourself isn't giving up. It's finally believing that you're worthy of the kind of love that doesn't have to be chased. I'll see you next week on the Overthinker's Guide to Love. Until then, remember that the healthiest love you've ever experienced starts with the way you choose yourself.